Friends, we're going to start chapter 3, which is talking about properties of parallel lines. It's a lined unit, and we actually change it to 2 separate units because one is doing a lot of new properties and how to use them, and the second half of the chapter is writing equations of lines. And we hit that pretty hard in this class, but we feel like they're split up really well. So that means we're going to have a quick test coming up very soon that you'll need to be prepared for. So this will be a short unit with just 4 sections, and we're actually going to be teaching 3-1 in 2 sections. So we're going to start, first of all, just reviewing what parallel lines are, okay? Remember, when we talked about parallel lines, we talked about how we can mark them, and we use these little hash marks of arrows saying they're parallel. But that doesn't mean anything unless we actually know the definition of parallel lines. And remember, it's very particular, one word we need to remember. Parallel lines are what? Coplanar. And that's the key word. Coplanar lines that never intersect. And so we know they're always going to be the same distance apart from each other. So we're going to be really working specifically with those parallel lines. But notice this diagram down below. These aren't parallel lines, but there are 3 coplanar lines. And we're going to actually use that to start identifying different types of angles. Today we're kind of exploring what's the relationship between angles and lines today, a little bit on plane. Well, first things first, we need to be able to look at this one. And the first thing we have to define is the word transversal. What is a transversal? A transversal is a line that intersects 2 coplanar lines at 2 distinct points. And I'm going to abbreviate points there to give room. So basically, if I was looking at this diagram up above, that means line T intersects 2 coplanar lines at 2 distinct points. T is your transversal. And we're going to talk about that a lot. We have to be able to identify a transversal. But there's some other things that we kind of need to keep in line too. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page. One of those things is we need to talk about the space between the 2 lines being intersected by a transversal. That is going to be called the interior. And think about between, in, kind of using the idea. And then the points on everything on the outside, like right here, going to here in the light blue, those are going to be considered exterior. So that's terminology we need to make sure we keep straight when we're working with this, because we're going to refer back to this over and over and over again. So like here, this is what's the example of the transversal? We're just going to write out line T. And remember, we can name a line by a lowercase letter if that's how it's being signified. Now, when we do this, we need to understand the following. A transversal and its 2 lines will always form 8 angles. All right? And so you can see these here. I labeled them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we want to be able to identify them quickly, so we give them very specific names. And their names kind of suggest where they're located. So you're going to have to be really good at knowing the definitions, because if we fulfill the definition, we know what we're looking for. So with an alternate interior angles. So when I use alternate, that means every other, right? Well, an alternate also in geometry means opposite sides, okay? So when you see the word alternate, think opposite sides, like 2 and 6 are an alternate sides of this. Interior, well, we're going to be talking about the interior angle, area between the 2 lines, not angles, excuse me, but angles, yes, but area between. So let's fill in the words that we need to figure out what alternate interior angles are. Alternate interior angles are 2 non-adjacent angles that are in the interior that are on opposite sides of the transversal. Okay, so let's look at this real carefully. 1 and 3 are going to be adjacent. 1 and 5 are non-adjacent, and 1 and 4 are non-adjacent. So I know one is going to have to match with either 5 or 4. But here's the one that tells us they're on opposite sides. Well, 1 and 5 are considered to be on the same side. So the angles that would work would be 1 and 4. And the other angle that would work would be 3 and 5. And when we work with alternate interior angles, so you can see 1 and 4, 3 and 5 are the ones that go together. But when you look at it, think about alternate interior angles are going to form a Z shape. Now, it can be a very ugly looking Z. It could look, something like this. I mean, it doesn't, something like that. It doesn't matter. But these two angles would be the ones that are alternate interior with each other. So we work with that. So 1 and 4, well, that means 3 and 5, they're on opposite sides, and they're non-adjacent also, so 3 and 5. So how many alternate interior angles are you going to have? 2 pairs. All right, let's look at the next ones. And again, we're going to use the same diagram, and so I'm going to do a quick fill-in so we're on the same one here. Remember, that's our interior. That means everything else is exterior. All right. Now, with this one, and also, by the way, before I forget, make sure we don't forget our transversal. That's going to be kind of critical for us to have. Then we have a word that's called alternate exterior angles. Now, not all books have these, but we will. Okay, so alternate exterior. So when you think about it, what we knew from our last one, they're going to be on opposite sides. They have to be angles that are in exterior. So that means it's going to be 2, 6, 7, or 8. So we know that much on here, but let's go and get detail again. Alternate exterior angles are 2 non-adjacent, so they're not next to each other, angles that are in the exterior. Right? So they're in the exterior that are on alternate sides, or we can say opposite, again, opposite sides of the transversal. So let's think about this. 2 and 7 are on the same side, right? They're definitely not adjacent, so I have to go opposite sides. Well, 7 and 8 are adjacent, so that doesn't work. So what does that leave to work with? Well, that goes cattywampus. You can think 7 and 6. So 7 and 6 are a pair. Well, that means 2 and 6 are adjacent, so that doesn't work. So I have to go on opposite sides, so that only leaves 8, because on the same side, it'd be 2 and 7. So we'd have 2 and 8. You should also get 2 pairs when you work with these. So you should have 2 pairs of alternate interior angles and 2 pairs of alternate exterior angles. If anything you do this weekend when you have a little extra time is you should memorize these definitions, because we have to be able to pick them up no matter what. Now, on our next one, which I love because I think these are so easy, are the names. Same side interior angles. Well, my interior angles are 1, 3, 5, and 4. Same side. Which 2 are on the same side of the transversal? Well, obviously 1 and 5, 3 and 4. So our definition for this are there 2 non-adjacent angles again. They're going to be in the interior, and they're going to be on the same side of the transversal. So same side interior. So same side interior, that means 1 and 5 go together. They're on the same physical side. They're both on the left. 3 and 4 to go together. They are physically together. So again, we get 2 pairs of these. So the name gives it away. Now I'm going to have to move the diagram just a little bit here to go back, but we have to get our last set of angles. They're corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are 2, and once again we're going to have the same word. They're non-adjacent. So they're not next to each other. And here's the cool thing, they're on the same side of the transversal. And here's the thing, one is interior while the other is exterior. So one is in the interior while the other one is in the exterior. So let you get that down, and then we're going to go show. You should get 4 pairs with this one. So let's start picking out our pairs just a little bit, okay? and I think we can show it if we sneak it in here. Corresponding angles, two non-adjacent on the same side, one's interior, one's exterior. So I'm going to look at just these four right here. Here's an exterior angle. It's adjacent to 1. They don't work together. But 2 has to go with 1 that goes with 5 because they're non-adjacent. One's interior, the other one's exterior. So you get 2 and 5. Well, the same thing happens with 1 and 7. 7's my exterior, 1's my interior. They're on the same side. They also are non-adjacent. Same type of thing happens over here. We have 6 and 4 go together. 3 and 8 go together. In fact, when we work with these, they form kind of like an F shape. Now I want to say a very rough F shape. A lot of times it looks like this. And it'd be considered what two angles? It'd be considered like an angle like this one and the angle like right here between those two. So one is going to be like interior, one would be exterior. Now, what are you talking about? Well, I could always extend these if I need to. But it's always going to be some sort of F shape. Sometimes they're very much... And the reason why it's an F shape, you need to remember, it's going to be on the same side of the transversal. So I'm working with this one here and like that one right there. Those are going to be corresponding angles. So corresponding means they go together. They're going to be on the same side. One interior, one exterior, and they're non-adjacent. Now, look at this nasty thing. You have to be able to identify the different types of angles. And so with that, we want to make sure you can find the two lines in the transversal and then classify the pairs of angles. So we're going to need to work this out. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to do the transversal. And I'm just going to write down for each one so I remember the transversal. I want to know which lines go with the transversal and what do the angles make. Okay? So let's do these together. All right, we talk about angles 2 and 5. And here's how I always kind of take care of this. If angles 2 and 5 are the ones we're talking about, that means line T would be our transversal. So I'm going to cover up the parts that doesn't matter to me. I'm going to cover up this one right here. Well, then it's very easy to see this is the transversal. It's going to its 2 points. So our transversal is line T here. The two lines it intersects are lines M and K. So we have both of those. Then we have to decide what type of angles 2 and 5 are. Now here's my question. First thing you should ask, are they on the same side or opposite sides of that transversal? Well, they're on the same side. Well, that means you're going to have a choice. They're either same side interior or corresponding. Well, 2 is an exterior angle. 5 is an interior angle. Well, that means they're corresponding angles. Let's look at the next one, 5 and 10. All right, so here's 5 and 10. These are the lines that make it. I'm going to cover up the section I don't need, okay? Now, which one is our transversal line? Yeah, it's the one that helps make both angles. Remember, the transversal line is the one that helps make both angles. So that's going to be line K. What that means, your other two lines are the ones being intersected. So you have lines T and M. So here would be T, here would be line M coming out. Now, look at the lines they give us, 5 and 10. Ask yourself with this transversal, are they on the same side or opposite sides? Well, they're the same side. Okay? Now ask, are they both in the interior? Yeah, they're both in the interior. This would be considered exterior, exterior. So if they're both in the interior, they're on the same side. They're same side interior angles. Let's look at 2 and 10. If I'm looking at 2 and 10, what line makes both of them? It's this one. So I cover up those angles. So what's my transversal going to be? Oops, I didn't spell transversal right. That's going to be line M. What are the two lines that are being intersected? That's lines. If it's line M's our transversal, it means it leaves T and K. T and K. Now, what type of angles are those? We have 2 and 10. Well, if this is my transversal, notice they're on opposite sides. Right away, that should be ding, 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 either alternate interior or alternate exterior. So I look, here's my 2, here's my interior. So those are going to be alternate interior. All right? So, alternate interior angles. And we'll do the last one here, 6 and 7. I cover up this side. here is the line that makes it. Okay? They're on opposite sides, so you already have an alternate. So here's our transversal. For some reason, I'm probably doing transversal today. And then we have, that's going to be T again. We have our lines. So it's going to be lines M and K. And last but not least, we're going to end up having our angles. And they are going to be, because notice which ones they are, 6 and 7. This is considered the interior. These are going to be on the exterior. So we have on that alternate exterior angles. All right, when we come back for notes, we're going to work on some examples here together. So you guys did a great job following me here.